Are you looking for more out of your life? Do you need ideas on how to start new businesses and how to move forward in your own personal life? Well, guess what? You have come to the right radio show. At You Can Overcome Anything podcast show, you will learn and hear from many people from all walks of life who are sharing their challenges, their stories, the habits, and the mind shifts they had to overcome to become who they are today. On top, you will get a chance to connect and see how you can overcome anything by networking and learning about your next move through this radio show. I present to you our great speakers at You Can Overcome Anything podcast show with your host, Cesar Espino. Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. It is your host, Cesar Espino, and today I have special guest. His name is David Williams. Hey, David, how are you, man?
I'm blessed, man. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. It's a beautiful day today. Can't complain, you know?
Yeah, I'm actually after we finish up here, I'm actually gonna go outside and get some air. I've been working like a lab rat for like 3 days now, man. So
yeah, you need some of that me time for sure, man. Yeah, so let me say something here regarding you to the listeners. So you're a creative New York 4-time author, podcast host, stocks investor, and you love of travel. You love to travel in the art of traveling, right?
yes, that's correct.
Man, that's awesome. So why don't we start by telling me more about you? Like, where did you grow up? Where are you originally from? How's your upbringing?
Well, when I first got into the entrepreneurial space, I tell people all the time that I stumbled in the space of just being creative and just really living life in your truth. I stumbled into that. I was very quiet as a kid, but I was always thinking. Like, I always had this expression on my face. Like, I was always thinking of something, whether it was an idea, whether it was like a school project or whatever. At that time, I was always thinking of something, and I didn't tap into that energy of just being creative and really loving this idea of just being free until I was about 25. That's really when I stepped into that part of my character. People had caught glimpses of it like throughout my life, and had spoken that over me at some point, but I wasn't sure how I would bring that out like eventually. And I had an encounter at my job where one of the things that they said was, you need us, we don't need you. And that's, I guess, the tipping point for me to start tapping into my own like creative energy, because I wanted to set up something for myself that was outside of my job, like my 9-to-5 job. And so it was that moment that I started to, I guess, mentally level the playing field between myself and my job. And so outside of my job, I would start going to the library. I would start reading up on how to self-publish books and how to market them and who to approach about marketing them. Like, I really dived into that natural creative space. And but I didn't start there. Like I said, I was quiet as a kid, but I was always thinking. I was always thinking of ideas. I was always thinking of people that I wanted to share these ideas with, but the people around me at that time were not receptive to what I was trying to say. They were not receptive because they weren't thinking in the way that I was thinking. So I think over time was, I kept those ideas in mind, but I suppressed them until I got around people that really just allowed me to just be free and just allowed me to just be creatively free. And then once I got to 25, that's when I tapped into it. And now I'm 4 books in. I'm currently working on book number 5. I have a couple of episodes of my own podcast as well. And I'm soon to reach episode 100
Wow.
of my own podcast. And then I'm also getting into like perfume as well. So for anybody that buys a book, they get like a free fragrance to go with it, you know? And so um, that's definitely a fast forward to how I was when I was like 10 years old. Because at 10, I wasn't thinking about doing my own thing, but people saw that in me. I just had to figure it out like for myself
Right. And
eventually.
that's what I was going to ask to see, what was that one idea? We as kids, we have an idea of who we want to be or what we want to become as we get older, right? And so
Yeah.
that was one of my questions. Like, did you know, as a kid, that, or like you mentioned, maybe there was never part of the idea of you becoming who you are now, right?
Yeah. No, it was not. And I joke with people about it all the time, but I jumped around quite a bit when I was really trying to figure myself out. I At first I wanted to be a psychologist. That was one of the first career paths that I had thought about because I've always been very mellow as a person, so it's easy for me to kind of let people become comfortable enough to tell me what's bothering them. So I thought that I was going to use that and become a psychologist until I looked at how much you have to go to school to become a psychologist. And then that very quickly,
Change their mind super
I very
fast.
quickly said, no, that's not for me. That I'm patient. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did jump around. I wanted to be a swimmer because I love to be around pools and swim. I wanted to even become a cop at one point, you
Mm.
know, and my friends like took me through the ringer about becoming a police officer. So I did jump around before I got into like authorship and like books. So it definitely wasn't like a thing of like ever since I was like 10 years old, that's always what I wanted to do. I jumped around, you know, but what was another defining moment for me was visiting my grandfather. He lived in Mississippi at the time, he's no longer with us. And I remember asking one of my family members at that time, what type of man was he? You know, how did he carry himself? What type of man was he? And they had said that he was very entrepreneurial, and he was an investor in real estate. He had a nonprofit. He had a TV repair shop, and I think a construction business as well. And so when I had that family encounter, even if it was only brief, it made a lot of sense behind why I work the way that I work. I very much like to be creative in my work. And that was another, I guess, stepping stone into the person that I am right now, who has accepted that creative energy and loves being in that space whenever I can be in that space. And so I give my grandfather a lot of credit because if it wasn't for just seeing his example, uh, I wouldn't have known what was possible for me, for myself. So I use his example to kind of keep it going now within my own family. So I guess you could call it a third generation entrepreneur because my grandfather started it, and then my mother wasn't entrepreneurial, but she has um, very much a business mind. And then I guess it skipped her, and I just got it in spades because I do books, I do podcasting, I have the perfume and stuff. So it skipped my mother, but it hit me. So
Mm.
um, yeah. So if it wasn't for him, like I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. Like I feel like that was a defining moment.
Yeah, so he definitely had an influence on you in terms of that. That's where you got the idea of being an entrepreneur, right? Obviously, it kind of is in your blood, and a lot of times people again get into it. You never having anybody. They're like the first generation, as you mentioned. You're kind of like the third generation to an extent of jumping
Yeah.
into that. So obviously, being very quiet as a kid, and then even kind of overcoming the fact that you can freely express yourself. Um, did you ever had any support or didn't have the support from your immediate family or friends in terms of the things that you were trying to do?
Yeah. So Right now, it's um, I speak to my mother about it, and I speak to maybe one other person in my family about it. There were some family members that didn't expect me to do what I'm doing. They
Hmm.
just, they couldn't fathom me being 4 books in and having books, period, under my belt. And even when I was trying to share that with them, when I was first getting like this inkling of like, I'm thinking of like writing a book, like, what do you think? Um, some of them had actually, I guess, written me off, and
Mm.
said that nobody would pay attention to what I was writing about, and nobody would even give it the time of day. And it's in those situations where I'm glad that I followed my intuition, which told me to do it anyway, and see who resonates for myself. And I've always liked seeing things for myself. I never really just went off of somebody telling me that I couldn't do it. I want to try it for myself and see if I can. If I can't do it, then I'll come to my own conclusion behind not being able to. So, in the presence of family members who didn't think I could do it, um, I'm glad that I followed my intuition and did it anyway. So there's a lot of family members that I wish were here to kind of witness those, even small successes, but they're not because they couldn't understand where I was being led to go. So there's only maybe 2 or 3 to this day that I really um, converse with.
Mm. Yeah. Um, what are your books about? Obviously, you wanted to freely express yourself, and definitely writing books, even doing podcasting. All of that is a way to get yourself out, especially when you're very quiet as a kid, right? So,
Yeah.
what are the books about, or and what has inspired the stories or whatever you're writing on those books?
Yeah. So my books are mainly nonfiction. And my first one was about, again, like I said, being formally introverted and
Hmm.
really tapping into that space of that, my life is based on my own decisions and I can go in my own direction if I feel led to do that. And so my first book was very emotional for me because it was a reminder that I can finish whatever I start. And that's what it was symbolic of because like I said before that, I had jumped around through different career paths, from not books, from wanting to do music to swimming to the becoming a police officer. So I jumped around a lot. And so books was super important to me because it symbolized that I could do
Hmm.
whatever it is that I set out to do. And I can block out the noise. I can block out anybody that feels that I can't do it. I can block all of that out and do it. And so my first book was very symbolic of that. So it was me breaking free from being introverted. Um, my second book was about the differences between entrepreneurs and network marketers, because I do have friends that have went the network marketing route, and everybody and their mother at that point was trying to recruit me, and I came to the realization that that just wasn't for me. That just wasn't a thing. But I had been around enough network marketers to observe them, and I noticed that there are some key differences between entrepreneurs and network marketers. And um, so I used some of my experiences with them to kind of come up
Hmm.
with a short book. It's like 30 pages, but
Mm.
a short book about the differences between them. My third one was called Entrepreneurial Spartans of Grandson's Tribute. And it was written in the form of a letter because I was having a dream at that time. And my
Mm.
grandfather approached me in that dream about a decision that I was on the fence about making. And once I woke up from the dream, I had like a clear mind or clear head about what direction I felt led to take. And so that was like the first book that came like right off the bat. It it just felt right of what I would say to my grandfather if he was around to see, the books and the podcasting and the places I've been and where I'm going. If he was around to see all of that, what type of, I guess, words of wisdom would he have for me?
Mhm.
So that's where the third book came from. And then my fourth um, was a combination of just everything from um, my mother introducing me to the corporate world and what impact that would have on me eventually. Um, Flashing back to when I wrote my first book, speaking on a podium, speaking to people that are developmentally delayed. Um, I just went through a checklist of all my experiences because somebody had encouraged me to take a break. Because at one point I hated taking breaks, and I really get mad at somebody if they told me to take a break,
Oh wow.
and they
Yeah.
encouraged me to do it anyway, so I did. And and that's where heavy is the head for those who wear crowns came from, because it was a combination of all my experiences so far, and I even talk about um, certain music artists that I listen to that have inspired me to explore the perfume side of things and like the perfume business. So that's what Heavy is the Head, which is my most is about. That's what it was about.
What has been one of your biggest lessons through your journey of writing and really just your journey of the things you're doing right now?
Um, the biggest lesson that I've learned, honestly, is to follow my gut at all times. Situations where I knew that something wasn't right, but because I was going along with what somebody else said, I did it anyway. And then the result of that wasn't always the greatest because I didn't follow my intuition and I didn't follow my gut. So that's been one of my biggest lessons, honestly, is to always keep my intention in mind and don't just jump like right into stuff. Like get a feel for it first, and then if it's something um, that I feel I can do, then jump right in. But always make sure that my gut or my intuition I follow.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, and I got to tell you, I mean that being in the as you know being also in the book uh, writing, or the literature aspect of that, you get to meet different people, you get to help different people,
Yeah,
impact people in different ways, right? And so I want to know, what is your take on the idea
yeah.
of the average five, right? Because I think that's critical for many different aspects, not just for your personal life, also for your professional life. How do you see it though?
Um, the average five. I definitely agree. Um, because I have been in situations where I've outgrown the people that I was once connected to, and it was just something that kind of, I guess, tugs at you, right? Until you make the decision to let these people go because you realize that you've outgrown them. There's nothing against them, but um, they're not doing the things that you're currently doing at the moment, or they can't see where you're going in the future. So the power of five, or the average of five, is definitely powerful. Um, as a person that has multiple passions, I do find myself drawn to people who have multiple passions. Whether it's books and podcasting, whether it's real estate investing and podcasting. Like as long as there's more than one thing, I'm usually drawn. So
Mm,
that's actually one of the things that I do look for in people because I am multi-passionate and books is just not just my thing. So that is one of the things I personally like look for is, do they have more than one passion or more than one thing that they love to do? So I definitely believe in like the power of five or the
yeah.
average five.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So I'm curious. You have a lot of DC characters on your social media, um, and so I want to know what is what is
Yes.
like the symbol of that, or are you just a fanatic of DC? I think there's more than that, but I want to get your input on that.
Yeah, totally, man. I love, and the cat is out the bag with this one, but I love comic books, man. I grew up on comic books, and I was recently on Clubhouse,
Mm.
and I didn't, I didn't think this way, but it went with the name of my show, the name of my podcast, which is Be Your Own Hero. That is the name of my show.
Mm.
And I didn't look at it that way, but I grew up on Superman, right? So I adopted the energy of Superman, because when I'm doing my books, when I'm doing my podcasts and that type of thing, I never get tired. And that's Superman. When he's in his, his superhero costume, he never gets tired. He can do anything. And so I really thought about it once somebody had brought it up, and I was like, you know what? That's a really fun approach to the whole entrepreneur space. Because one of the things that you get a lot in the entrepreneur space is that it's a lonely road, it's daunting, it's grueling, it's all of the negative sides of the whole entrepreneur space. And I thought about it and I said, well, what can I do to excite some type of fun into the entrepreneur space? And the fun side of entrepreneurship is that you can build yourself up to a certain point, and then you meet other people that are on similar battles to what you're fighting. So you guys build a team, and then you get to a point where you can kind of mentor people and pave the way for somebody else. And I thought about that, and it reminded me of the hero's journey and how entrepreneurship is a lot like becoming your own superhero. So what I did was I started like just a fun question, like hey, anyone out there who's listening, like who is your favorite superhero? It could be anybody. It could be Batman. It could be Spider-Man. It could be Superman, whoever. And I got a lot of good feedback for that, and so that's how I incorporated like the whole superhero theme into like everything I'm doing, because it went perfect with all this stuff. So I didn't plan on it being part of my brand. I did it, but it just fit. Like it just fit, So yeah, but I am a comic book nerd outside of all of my business stuff. I love comic books.
No,
but yeah, that's how I incorporated it into everything.
I definitely love that. And one thing that you kind of reminded me when you were talking about, can get lonely and you're going through all these different things in your journey. Definitely people need to check out the hero's journey. It's a very interesting path. Obviously you see that a lot in the NLP world, and neuro-linguistic programming is definitely good.
Yeah.
One thing that came to mind is, I listen to a lot of motivational speakers, and I do a lot of reading, both audio and actual books. And I remember listening to Les Brown, and he said, when you're chasing after your dreams, it gets lonely on the top because it's the bottom that's overcrowded. And when you listen to that analogy, or you listen to that, it's actually pretty true, right? If you want to be running around pigeons, you're going to be another pigeon, or you want to be the eagle that is flying by itself, right? And so now that I think about it, when you think about Superman, it's the same thing too, right? He's always kind of flying solo, doing his own thing up above, just doing that, which is very interesting. Yeah. I remember it's probably been about a year now, somebody from Hong Kong did a podcast interview on me, and it was very similar to that. They're very fanatic in terms of comics, and they were asking me, who do you resemble? Who do you maybe can correlate yourself to? And I actually talked about Superman too, because I believe a lot of things that you're talking about, there's a lot of that in that aspect too. And I also like comics too. Maybe not that big in comics, but I do like that stuff too. So yeah. So David, where can people find your books if they want to get a copy of your book?
Yeah, so they are on all of my books are on Amazon. My first one was An Eagle Eye with a Lion's Heart: How Introverts Can Break Through Barriers. My second one is Lions and Wolves: The Differences Between Entrepreneurs and Network Marketers. My third is Entrepreneurial Spartans: A Grandson's Tribute. And then my fourth is Heavy is the Head, for those who are crowns, the Entrepreneurial Kingdom. And then the one that I'm releasing now or soon is hybrid, being superhuman among people.
I love that. I love that.
And
When
that's
when is
where I got the whole like superhero and entrepreneurship.
got you? When is that expected to be released, and how many more weeks or months?
I'm aiming for, because I've already finished it. I'm just waiting on my editor to finish. But
Gotcha.
I'm aiming for like within like the next 2 months.
Nice. Awesome.
I'm giving myself at least 2 months.
Yep. Yep. Good. Good. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you, learn more about everything that you have going on, your fragrance or other stuff? Where can people find you and connect with you?
I am on Twitter. My Twitter is Kyle's Enterprise. So that's KayLes Enterprise, ENTEPRS. And that's also my Instagram name, but it's spelled out fully. So Kyle's Enterprises. And then I also have that same name as a Facebook business page as well. So Kyle's Enterprises LLC on Facebook. And then if anybody wants to connect with me personally, it's David. So DAVID, Kyle's, KAYLES, and then Williams. So WILLIAMS.
Awesome. 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 I love that. I love that. What I want to know, again, I think a lot of people that are in this business or in this journey of the entrepreneurial, really working on a lot of the aspects of writing, reading, all that stuff. Do you have any particular habits on a day-to-day basis that you do or must do to just keep you in this very positive state of mind?
Yeah, man. Yeah. So I know that we are mutually connected with a bunch of people, but I do have to shout out. I think her name is Alyssa Montez. She was in your book, in one of your books.
Yep.
I remember connecting with her, and she put a strong emphasis on just being healthy. And so now that's one of my key routines. Like I work out every day. And I find that being in that space of just working out sets my day up a lot smoother instead of just saying, I'll work out today, maybe tomorrow, maybe next week. Like, so just carving out that time to work out and meditate as well has done dividends in terms of how it sets up my day. Like I find that when I work out, it's easier for me to write. It's easier for me to set up a podcast. So just having the discipline to work out has had like a ripple effect over like other parts of my life that I'm like super involved in. So I would encourage anybody who's not doing it already to at least work out for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
It definitely does. Like,
yeah.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, and that I definitely can agree to that. I now create part of that of my daily routine. Every morning I do at least 45 minute. I either walk or something to that nature, and it's definitely for me it's life changing in the sense of not only is good for you in terms of having a more healthy lifestyle, it also helps you, or at least it helps me, just kind of like put out some listen to some audio or motivational videos, and just kind of think, and just reflect and kind of go through that and use that time to be present to an extent.
Yeah. Speaking of audiobooks, I do have my top 3 at the moment that I'm really listening to. I'm curious to know your top 3, but mine would be 10X by Grant Cardone. Empire, How to Have It All by his wife, Elena Cardone. She put out one as well. And Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter by 50 Cent. Those are like my top 3 audiobooks that I personally listen to. But I'm curious, man, like what are your top like 3?
Yeah, that's a good one, man. I've listened to so many now, but I would say if I was to think of some of the ones that I've really enjoyed, and I know you've read this too, is obviously the Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and that's actually pretty good. And I actually read that book. I didn't listen to the audio. I'm more of a reader. Nevertheless, I'm sure you can pick up as an audio. That's definitely one. The other one that I really like is the compound effect by Darren. What's his name? Compound effect by Darren something. I forget his last name right now. And then the last one is the Miracle Morning.
I love the Miracle Mornings.
Yeah,
I love those. They definitely set your morning up, most definitely.
It does. It did. It did. And I like a lot of the exercises. So it's definitely a good one to look at and read and kind of go through that. Right now, this moment, I'm reading the How to Be a Billionaire a book. And so that one's, again, it's talking a lot about the people that got to that level and what are some of the things that they did. So it's a pretty good book. Yeah.
Are you talking about proven strategies from the Titans of Wealth?
Yes. Yep, exactly that one.
Okay, cool. Because I have that one as well. I love that book. That was one of my first. That was one of my first books when I really started getting into the space of becoming a billionaire, because that is one of my goals, life goals. So, yeah, I love that book.
Yeah, I'm currently listening. That I'm actually doing an audiobook. So, every morning or afternoon, I do 2 times of workouts, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. So I'll pop that one in there and just kind of listen to that. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely good. It's definitely good to listen to those things. So let me ask you something. And my last question for you is, for people that are listening and or watching this, if they're going through any kind of challenge, whatever challenge that might be, what is one thing you can tell them that they can start doing now to start overcoming that challenge?
One of the things that I've gotten into the habit of doing is writing everything down. Writing down my frustrations, writing down what I'm grateful for, writing down what I currently have in front of me at the moment. Because I find that it puts me in a place of appreciation and gratitude. And I found gratitude to be a huge game changer. And so that's one thing that I could recommend to anybody listening, is to, if you're not doing it already, to get into the habit of just writing things down. If you're frustrated and you're not sure if somebody's going to be around, just write it down. Write down what you're grateful for and all of that stuff. So getting into the habit of writing things down.
I love that. And definitely it helps you not only download, just like a computer, you want to be able to download the information or everything's going in your head, so you can allow for new stuff to come into play, right? And so, and sometimes when you're writing things down, you start seeing things more clear too, right? I mean, at least that's one thing that I've experienced myself.
Yeah.
So that's actually a pretty good tip there. Definitely a golden nugget for sure. David, anything else you want to share before I let you go?
Yeah, man. First, I do want to say again, I appreciate this interview, man. I know that we've been connected throughout the streets of Facebook for a while now. And so I'm just glad to be finally connected with you, man. So I appreciate you just for having me.
Yeah, no, definitely. I appreciate it, man. And definitely, I know we've been definitely connected a lot on social media. And as you mentioned, we have a lot of mutual friends. And so I love that network too. Even if you don't, and that's one thing when we're talking about the average 5, even if you're not, haven't seen that person or things like that, it's always good to have that network where you can edify each other. You can, just really help each other grow in different aspects. And I feel like that has been part of that too. It's like, I've seen your support in many different aspects. So I really appreciate that from your perspective. And so, or from my perspective towards you. So thank you so much for that. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, no worries, man. No worries.
Awesome. Well, thank you once again for being here. And for the rest of you guys, please do me a favor. Make sure you check out David's books. Go to Amazon, pick up your copy, or hit him up. Maybe he can give you an autographed copy and, something else to go with that. Nevertheless, connect with him and do me a favor. Make sure that you share this podcast with your friends and your network. You can listen to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform, and stay tuned for the next episode of You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. See you then. Bye.
Hi, I'm Cesar Espino, real estate investor, business coach, and consultant, and author of the book, You Can Overcome Anything Even When the World Says No. My number is 424-501-6046. In my book, I talk about making the necessary changes to shift your mind for prosperity and certainty. Pick up your copy at Amazon. I also love helping families with their real estate and can purchase your house fast and all cash. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. My number is 424-501-6046.
Thank you for having me today. I am so glad you've tuned into this podcast. You can find me at your favorite podcast platform where you can like, subscribe, comment, and share. And to learn more about myself, my services, you can find me at www.CesarRespino.com, or you can also find me at your social media. Thanks for joining me, and I am looking forward to having you at the next episode. And know you truly can overcome anything.